Hi, welcome to today's Leaders in Mental Wellness and Diabetes, where you will hear insights from the top minds in the world of diabetes care, hosted by Dr. Char.
Hi, how are you today?
I'm great. Thank you. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Jill Weisenberger makes nutrition science understandable, realistic, and hear this, delicious.
That's right.
She's an author, consultant, speaker. She offers practical tips to help people improve their health. I want to stop right there, but I must go on. She specializes in diabetes care and weight management. She's a registered dietitian. She's from Newport News, Virginia. I could go on and on and on. Welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for joining me.
I'm happy to be here.
Can you tell us about your journey and how you came to helping diabetes patients?
Sure. Well, actually, I'll start by saying, I am both a registered dietitian nutritionist, certified diabetes care and education specialist, and actually a third one, I'm also a certified health and wellness coach.
Oh, wow.
It really happened accidentally. So I'll tell people I'm an accidental dietitian. I did not have a math background or a science background. I had been working in marketing and public relations for a little while, and I didn't like it. I just didn't like it. And I was really interested in nutrition, but had no confidence that I could study nutrition because I didn't have all that chemistry, biochemistry, microchemistry, microbiology, all those things. I didn't have any of them. And I was walking along the University of Florida campus one day looking for a new job. And I said, well, heck with this. I don't want a new job. And I went and applied to grad school. And then I came home and told my husband of only 6 weeks that I'm not getting a new job. I just want to apply to school. He was very happy for me. So I became an accidental dietitian, really, because it was on a whim. And it took me a very long time to get that degree because you can't get a master's in nutrition when you had no math and science background without taking a lot of prereqs first. So it took me 4.5 years.
Well, as a child, were you interested in nutrition? Were you healthy?
No. I got interested in nutrition by managing my weight. So,
I can't imagine, you're so tiny. I would have never thought it was a problem.
No, that's not really the way it worked out,
But, if you were raised in Virginia, maybe you're just there now, but I was raised in West Virginia, and my culture still, when I go home, my mama can make some gravy and biscuits.
I'm actually from Florida. I grew up in Florida.
Oh, from Florida. I lived there 20 years in Ocala. Where are you from Florida?
Well, I went to the University of Florida, so I'm very close to Ocala. I grew up right near Daytona Beach, but I went to University of Florida in Gainesville twice.
Well, that's why Floridians does not have this Southern accent or this Appalachian.
I used to go horseback riding with my dad in Ocala.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so good. There's a horse ranch, but a 63-acre home for children that my husband, it took us there because for 20 years and until he became ill, he was administrator of a home for children, and it was a 63-acre horse ranch. And you must know, if you went horseback riding between Gainesville and Ocala, it was called Citra. You know where that is?
Yeah.
So it is just very, very, isn't this kind of conversation so good? The world is not nearly as big as we like to think it is. It's just us together living life, right?
Yeah, sure.
That's what it is. Well, so you accidentally fell into nutrition. You're saying that it helped you.
Oh, personally, yes, like my whole life, and my children and my husband and all the thousands of people I've been able to work with. And I really pretty much accidentally fell into diabetes too. So the lesson
that was my next question.
The lesson here is let accidents happen. Yes, I had been working for a few years as a registered dietitian nutritionist, and my former boss called me up, who at that point had become a diabetes educator. And she says, Jill, I'm thinking about cutting back my hours. Would you be able to pick up my hours? But you'd have to be on the path to become at that time we were certified diabetes educators. I go, sure, why not? And
husband, back to school I go.
The hard part is it was an hour's drive each way.
Oh,
a commute through a tunnel and everything. So that was kind of a drag. But I did it with the idea that I would do it until I didn't like it anymore. And I thought maybe I would get bored seeing the same patient type over and over, but I never did because everybody's different.
yes.
And also everybody's diabetes is different.
Sure. And then did that lead you to the weight management? Where did the weight management come into all this?
The weight management is really where I got started because that's what I did for myself. So
dare I ask, you were not overweight as little as you are, you were?
Oh, yes.
So the weight management came first and personal.
Yes.
That's
then I
amazing.
became a dietitian. And, and I studied weight management, specialized courses in weight management, not quite to the depth that I did with diabetes.
But the weight management, of course, fit well with nutrition, and it fit well with diabetes.
Absolutely.
Did you see yourself being noticed by yourself or others where having that component added into your training helped you with the diabetes patients more?
I think that most of the time, there's always people you don't really click with, but most of the time, I think my patients felt, like I got them. I didn't always talk about having had a weight problem when I was younger. So I think sometimes people automatically assumed that I didn't get them.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm much more open about it. I don't know, something about getting older. You just stop thinking about things and letting them bother you.
You don't care what people think, but that's true. But there's something interesting here. I'm a mental health specialist, so I have to go here. When I was younger, I've had type 1 diabetes for 100 years. Well, literally almost 50, seriously. But I, for the longest time, didn't share it. I would if I needed to, but I tried even after we got a pump. Now you got to remember, I was diagnosed when I peed on a stick. I mean,
right.
I certainly didn't have a Dexcom telling my phone what my blood sugar is. But when I got a pump, for instance, I wore it on my belt. The reason I wore it on my belt is because it's bad enough to have weight that you don't like, much less a bump hiding under a shirt, poking the shirt out. So I wore it on the belt so as honestly to maybe help that. And someone brazen enough to approach me as if I was seeking attention. And that's why I was wearing a pump. So that put me back in isolation because I had tried before to keep it hidden. And I had felt that people thought it was attention seeking. When you're looking, and I understand that today. I don't give a ding dong today. But back then, when I would be laughing and I'm loud and I'm just me, all of a sudden I'm off in the corner with my head down and I'm experiencing a hypo and I'm just not talking. And somebody thinking, again, I'm attention seeking. So I was in the closet as best I could be. You never can be secretive about diabetes, but I certainly didn't gain the support I could get today. I'm saying that to say I've learned from actually a parent that I heard say one day, I'm not taking my 8-year-old son into a nasty bathroom to inject him. And so I've been on pumps and off pumps and at different times. And at this point, I was injecting myself and I said, squared my shoulders, and I'm not going into another nasty bathroom. So from then on, I gained some freedom. So I say that story to lead me to say, emotionally, people were not real supportive of me. So I was kind of not telling. Is there any way that your journey that's led you to help so many people because of something so important that 2 out of 3 of us deal with, and that is excess weight? Is there any way that emotionally you were impacted by people's not fair judgments?
Toward myself?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, it was terrible. The names I was called. I was a teenager and young 20s. The names I was called was horrible. And so this is why I would never have talked about it, because the just that implicit memory that you get when you think about it, the names that people called you, and people who should never call you names, called me names.
Yes. I get you. Well, here's the good thing. No, everybody's not earned the right to hear your story. So thank you today. We won't even stay on it because that's not what you've chosen to concentrate on, even in helping people. But you have chosen the route that helps people through some of the very things you struggled, and yet you've chosen not to tell everybody your story. And that's totally okay. I am so glad to meet you. It's an awesome thing that you know the path, because you look so little and beautiful and tiny. I would never have guessed. And so it's great that you shared it. But on the other hand, I personally get where you just, everybody's not earned the right to hear my story.
Yeah.
Snap.
I don't really have a problem talking about it anymore because it's enough time has passed. But for a long time, I just didn't. And I wasn't sure that it really impacted anybody's in a positive way or not. But now I realize if people can relate to me, then they can learn from me.
Absolutely.
So.
And one of the reasons that I'm doing these podcasts and I'm just learning, I've not been online much in my life until this last year. Oh my God. But the reason I want to do it is so that people can genuinely hear from more perspectives. Like if a patient comes in to see me, they're hearing my perspective. And while I agree with it and I think it's wonderful, there's so many other ways that people can look at things. And I say I'm a little snooty. I'm trying to find a better word than that. If I'm going to help someone and offer them an opinion outside of my own, I do want it to be a good opinion. I want it to be from someone who is good at what they do and have studied what they do, and they know the science behind what they do. But it also helps if they personally understand it. So I'm really happy that you're here today. I'd like for you to tell us some of those tips, some of the ways that you help people when they come see you, when you work individually. What's some of the things that would benefit anybody listening that could help them today that maybe they've missed along the way?
I think a lot of times people focus so much on rigid rules that they're going to eat only certain things, or they're never going to eat certain things, or they're going to wake up at 5 and do this type of exercise on Mondays and Wednesdays, and they're going to wake up at 5 and do that type of exercise on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and they have these rigid rules. And that, I think, is the biggest problem, is rigidity. Self-loathing, I think, is a huge problem, and just a lack of self-kindness. So whatever I'm working on, whether I'm working with, if I'm writing a book, so I've written several books for the American Diabetes Association. So if I'm writing a book, working on a training course, so I also have video courses, or working with a group somehow, I always focus on basically like 3 pillars. So one of them is solid information. So And I think that's what you just described. You want somebody who knows the science and who has experience. And
absolutely,
even if the opinion is different from yours, you want to know that it's based in something real. So I think we need solid science. I think we need a more positive mindset. So instead of focusing on what I don't want, I want to focus on what I do want. Instead of focusing on a list of foods that are bad for me, I'm focusing on a list of foods that are good for me. Instead of saying, I have fat genes, so I have to exercise every day, I say, I have arranged my life so I get to move every day and it feels great. And then the third pillar, I would say, has to do with making your behaviors automatic. So in your good behaviors automatic, we have a lot of undesirable behaviors that are automatic, and including automatic thoughts. You know, like I ate that so I'm bad, or I ate that so I'm fat, or whatever. But I want to work on, you need solid information. I want to help you think in a new way, because there is a new way out there. And I want to help you change your behaviors based on that positive attitude and that solid information. So those are the three things that I work on.
Oh my goodness, those are so good. Now, when you, again, my little mental health piece that jumps in here every time, where does anxiety and stressors show up more in the patients? I know you don't have the science behind it, but if you were to just, when you're gaining the education, being taught, when you're trying to learn the mindset of positivity and like yourself and be good to yourself through all of these ups and downs and a low and a high and so many 200 food choices a day. Oh my God. And then getting those behaviors automated to where it's just happening for you. Do you see anxiety in one or the other of those more that people are experiencing?
I think if they get the mindset piece right, the behaviors come. But sometimes I think it's a little bit of, the chicken and the egg. They really feed on each other. So you can't really say one comes first. But I do think that without the right mindset, the behaviors aren't going to happen, not long term. Very likely they will short term, but not long term. But also, once you start making small changes, it feeds into that positive mindset. So that's why I don't like these super rigid, radical rules. I want something with more flexibility and something more doable. So you get that small win, which spurs you on for another small win, which starts to help you change your whole identity of yourself. Mm-hmm. So, I didn't used to exercise. And I remember doing it because I thought I had to. I was in college. I think, yes, I was in college. And I was doing it because I had to. And, then I realized I'm getting healthier here. I could feel it. I could feel more fit. And that was my small win to get me to do more exercise and different exercise. I can't imagine my life without it. And so it just starts. I'm not sure which one comes first, the mindset part or the behavior change part, but they work together and you need both of them.
But anxiety with either of those, it just comes as a general, you think it can be through all three.
I guess the anxiety I see anxiety coming more with, I'm not good enough, I can't do it, I'm not capable. Mm-hmm. And that really hits all three aspects. Because that first pillar that I talked about with solid information, well, that's why I think a lot of people go to fad things, because they have that anxiety and they need those strict rules to tell them exactly what to do. So I think anxiety feeds into all three pieces. So if you have a lot of anxiety about what to eat, it is a lot easier if I gave you a list and said, only eat this, than if I told you had to make your own decisions. So I think the anxiety fits into that, and it causes people to get very, very rigid. I think anxiety fits into the mindset piece because we have spent our lives berating ourselves. Mm-hmm. And the thought that I'm going to offer myself kindness instead of tough love, I think that causes people anxiety because it's new. It's a new thought. And so just imagine that, you believe, and I don't mean you, I mean somebody.
Sure.
Somebody believes I have to be hard on myself or I'm never going to change. And then you or I come along and say, that's the opposite. Be kinder to yourself. We change better when we feel better about ourselves. It's a very hard concept for people. And then the third one is about the behavior change. You start thinking about that. And it's like all the reasons you can't do it because you're not good enough. You can't do it because you don't know how to make these choices. You can't do it because you're not disciplined enough. But that's why I like to start with those small wins. We do something little and it feeds us to do something else, and we get this nice upward spiral. And you can see that happen in a negative too. Somebody has, I don't know, let's say you get a bad grade. And then you think, oh my gosh, I'm stupid. I'm never going to get into college. And it makes you feel bad about yourself, and you get more anxious, and you get another bad grade or less than stellar grade. And it's just like a downward spiral.
Mm-hmm.
But it works the same way. You can have an upward spiral. So your question about anxiety is something I hadn't thought about before, but it's really fascinating now that I'm thinking about it, because it feeds all three.
That is interesting at the very core for me, because our mindset, I believe, is like, I believe we have this computer that's an operating system. We came with it. It was downloaded with people that nurtured us and some that didn't, sad to say. And then we, after 7 or 8, we start downloading our own programs. And if we've been nurtured in a way of being negative about ourselves, now we're downloading our programs that we're going to live by with the same negativity.
Yeah,
so so I'm on a journey to change that. But here's what I want. When you, as a nutrition specialist, can be involved with a patient when they're first diagnosed, and when a diabetes educator can be involved when they're first diagnosed, I long for the day when a mental health specialist can be part of that team. Now, we are better by far.
Yes.
Doctors used to tell me, I would love for my patients to see you, but I don't want them to think that I believe they're crazy. Now, when the physician says that, you know, it's a long time ago. But the truth is, that's how people felt. So they didn't want to give them a referral. And consequently, you didn't get a mental health counselor for a long time. Now it's almost vogue. Now it is so popular. And now I could have 3 private practices after COVID, because now we can be online, and my God, everybody wants it. But my point about the anxiety is, it's kind of traumatic, if not kind of is. When you get diagnosed, you get the nutrition specialist giving you all that information. You get the diabetes educator giving you information. You get all this stuff poured into you. And if it's not traumatic, it's still overwhelming. And it's like a lion chasing you. And we were created. We come here with this system that will help us in stress, right? But when the lion's not chasing you, that is when you have to learn how to not let it become a disorder or a dis-ease. And that's when I want my profession, the younger girls after me, the specialists after me. I want to push doors open. And I have some, I believe, I'm thankful. But now when everybody gets diagnosed and there's a team already assigned, I long for the day when we can be in the front of that line with everyone else, so that we could start working on those issues that are of the mindset and are being kind to ourselves. And when we are having to make choices, that it works out of a good place and not a bad place.
You know, my girls are both in their 20s, and their generation speaks about mental health in such a wonderful ease.
Yes.
It's fantastic. And so I do have hopes that it will, become more and more common to have a mental health counselor with, for not even for all types of diagnoses.
Well, mine is, I'm a counseling psychology specialist. That means my doctorate is in education, and I'm clinically licensed to counsel. And so as a teacher, as a clinician, and a type 1, I want, when a 2-year-old gets diagnosed, I'm not much help to him or her, but that mama that is so overwhelmed, when I say I mean my field.
Right.
I am needed. And it is a great day that I have a Dexcom where it tells me my blood sugar at any moment, and I don't have to pee on a stick. Right. And it's also a great day when I can help reverse anxiety, prevent anxiety, teach people that they can have stress and it not be dis-ease. But I'm also so interested in that nutrition piece that as diabetes patient, we deal with every day, many times a day. Sometimes it is our choices, and sometimes we had a hypo. We can be going smooth, not knowing why, and our blood sugar drops. So it's great to, how do you help us with a low nutritionally?
Well, I like to look at the medications and the timing and all,
More than what I can tell you, right?
all aspects. But I do want people with diabetes to understand that it isn't always because you did something wrong.
Right.
There's so much guilt there. And I want very much for people to think, this is what I say. I want you to think of your blood sugar meter with as much judgment as you think of a meat thermometer. It's information. So when your turkey says it's 150, you know it needs more. Keep it in the oven. But it doesn't mean you're a lousy cook.
That's so good.
It's information. So take it as information. And there's just so many things that will affect blood sugars, as I know but I think a lot of people don't understand it. It's just the combination of foods, the timing of your exercise, the intensity of your exercise, the duration of your exercise. These are a lot of things to juggle. Your menstrual cycle, your level of sleep, the quality of your sleep and the amount of sleep. There's just too many things. Do you have the flu? Are you going to wake up tomorrow with the flu? Maybe that's what's going on right now.
And about the time you think you have one of those figured out really well and you're in a real good path, then another environmental change happens, some circumstance happens, and flip, you have another. But I'm 50 years almost into this saying, we can do it. It can be, I'm healthy. My feet are good. I'm 64 years old. I have the best size 6 foot. There's nothing wrong at all with it. It walks me 3 miles every morning. Now, sometimes it doesn't want to go. Sometimes it would rather stay home. On those times, in those moments, on that being kind to yourself, how do you stay motivated and do it and it not be rigid?
For me, in the way I work with people, I really help people dig into why they're doing something. So just as an example, I one time had a patient, so I'm not doing one-on-ones with people right now, but this is a woman with type 2 diabetes. And this is the type of thing I would do with lots of people, most of my clients. But I just love what she said in our conversation. We were really digging into why she was going to take care of her food, her exercise, her sleep, her stress, her medications. Why was she going to do all these things? And there were many, many reasons, but the thing that's the biggest picture in my mind, because it's just such a visual thing. She says, I have such energy, I can spin on my heels. That's what she wanted in her life. She didn't want to be dragging. So there were other things, like she wants to spend time with her grandchildren and her children and so forth. But that one statement really affected me. So that was her picture in her mind of why she was going to do, because she was not necessarily putting a lot of effort into it at that time, but she was starting to again. It's like, so this is the picture of me with all as my best. And she says, I have such energy, I spin on my heels. So I like to dig into why do we do things. This is really true, whether we're talking diabetes management,
that's true,
any aspect of health and fitness, work-related stuff, relationship-related stuff. So I think you really have to dig. So like, I don't want somebody to say to me, I mean, this is fine if they say this, but I don't want this to be the only reason. Well, I'm doing it because my doctor told me I had to. Mm-hmm. It's like, but what does it mean to you? And sometimes people haven't really thought about it.
Well, I certainly don't want to advocate taking responsibility away from the patient, but I also think for me, if someone didn't get it, I maybe didn't explain it well, or there's something I could tell them in a different way. My goal is for them to get it. If it's not me that's able to get something to them that I know is a given, that they should know and I should know and all that, I usually try to get the should out of my life. So, but when there is something that they should get and know, and I know it's truth, I know it's science, I know that it's good for them, it's good for me, it's good for the world, then I want to have a different plan. And I think that's what part of these podcasts are about. Give different options, because sometime or the other, that's going to be the right information. And it's going to, now I call the why the non-negotiables. If you can get somebody to have a non-negotiable, and everybody does, it's just that we don't dig, like you say, deep enough to find it. I'm so grateful that you're doing that. Here's my kickback a little bit. You said health and wellness coach, but you're not doing it one-on-one. How are you doing it? And why can't we get to you?
Well, I've written a few books, so they're out there. In fact, this is my most recent one, actually. It's on prediabetes, a complete guide. I've written a handful, but I'll just show you two. In diabetes weight loss week by week. So that's another one. These two have been really good sellers. And in the prediabetes book, I talk a lot about that vision and finding your why. I talk about that. Also, I have my own blog so people can read about these types of things. And if you can do my name, I know it's not easy to spell, but if you can do my name, you can find my website. It's jillweisenberger.com.
I'm going to spell it just because somebody may be writing it down. I don't know. Everybody's not 20 and everybody can't do this real easy. So I'm going to spell it. Weisenberger.
Right. So jillweisenberger.com. That's my website. And I have a guide there. It's a written downloadable, like an ebook. It's for people who are new to eating with type 2 diabetes. So it's the beginner's guide to what to eat for type 2 diabetes. It's very basic. It takes you through what are carbohydrates, what affects your blood sugar, how to read a food label, how to count carbs. And then it looks at a more holistic picture as well, looking at heart health and longevity and things like that. But it's very, very basic, non-threatening. And that's what I realized wasn't really out there. Something, very easy to understand.
People don't want a clinical language from us.
No.
They don't, we literally want to be a casual help, and they don't admire our clinical language. But if we can serve them what they need, then they will take it. Now, I think that everybody, where you say that's basic new stuff, people that are just diagnosed will benefit, I'm sure. But if you're 10 years into diabetes, if you're 5 years into diabetes, I don't care. If you don't feel like you are doing well 40 years into it, that's a good place to start. Let's start at the beginning.
It starts with, what should I eat? It's very, very basic.
Because nobody said that I have to be who I was 5 minutes. There's not a rule. So a beginner's guide with diabetes for me today, I could learn lots from it. And if I was at a point today that I felt like I'm stuck or it's just not going well, that would be one of the first places I would hope to run. And then the other one on the week to week weight loss
week by week.
Tell me a little bit about that. Is that just for type 2s? Can type 1s benefit? Are there recipes? Tell me about that book.
There are a few recipes. It's week by week for like 16 weeks, and then it goes month to month. So it covers a whole year. To me, that was important because I have learned working with people, when I was doing the one-on-ones, I learned that working with people long-term, giving them support long-term, helped them immensely. So if we could get through a vacation, a family reunion, a Christmas holiday, a birthday, the flu season. So if we could get through all those things and troubleshoot how to make it work, then they were okay. But if you only work with them for 3 months and it's, just super focused and everything is fine, then they don't have the skills for all those other things. So that is why I wanted to make sure it lasted a whole year. So I wanted somebody to have that support, this, in this case, it's in the form of a book, but to have that support for a full year. And there are some recipes and some menus in there that are just examples, but it's not a cookbook. It's basically, this week, here's your 3 lessons. Go practice them. Now, this week, here's your 3 lessons. So go practice. And it just goes on like that. And then
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if I like a plant-based approach, if I like a vegan approach or a keto approach, it doesn't matter. It will still work for me.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, it should. I think
well,
so.
I'm on a program right now. I'm on a journey and I'm feeling pretty good, but I'm going to go buy this book. I'm going to go buy it myself. And so my encouragement is that everyone that needs step-by-step, even though you don't recommend being rigid, I think it's very important to say we do need patterns. Patterns.
Automatic behaviors in a positive mindset based on solid information.
Good deal. You got your stuff, girl.
Patterns. We need automatic behaviors. We need to get rid of negative automatic thoughts, replace them with positive automatic thoughts. We need to remember that thoughts are not facts.
No. And when we do that, when we take a negative thought and ignore it or do nothing with it, there's studies that have proven that when they're all jumbled up and they should be coming up over your head like this, and they get all jumbled up, whatever, in your subconscious, you can get rid of one, ignore one. It takes 7 to 14 thoughts with it. Before you know it, you're feeling a little bit of clarity and you're not feeling as depressed and you're feeling better, and you wonder why. It's because you're realigning and you're ignoring and you're not paying attention to those thoughts, but you're adding the information that you are adding is what you believe and what you want. So your brain now is giving you what you want. It's what it's there for, and not what was pre-designed and placed in there. You're replacing that. And now when it happens, just like if you're driving down the street, and I'm sure you know this, but everybody's driven down the street and wondered, oh God, I don't even remember making that turn.
Right.
And there's this subconscious that knows how to drive down the street. It's still you, but it's in that subconscious. It's that is already automated. And the reason habits work until they don't is we don't have them automated because we've not aligned them with our brain and our thinking and have gotten it to where that subconscious part of 90 to 99%, whatever that is, can do what we have placed in there. And so good.
That's why I am such a pusher of these small wins, because that helps to change our identity. Oh, I'm an exerciser? I am a daily exerciser. I have been a daily exerciser for almost 40 years. And well, let's say 35 or 37 or something like that, a long time. But I started off hating exercise, but you do it a little bit and you realize that feels good, or that you get something good out of it. And all of a sudden, oh, I'm an exerciser.
And to ignore those thoughts that come in and tell you those things. Positive affirmations doesn't do it alone, but when you ignore those thoughts, that you're right, they're not facts, they're just thoughts. Imagine we wouldn't have a computer to be on today if not Bill Gates, what was his name? Steve Jobs, if you're on an Apple, if he had ignored his thought, because they all go away. They all go away within 24 hours if we don't do something with them. Yeah. And so you do something with the good ones and you say no thank you to the others. Right. And you build that mindset that is alert, that mind that is the consciousness and the awareness. You take that part, but you put it all into, not the wrong stuff, but the good stuff, into that subconscious, that brain, so that the mindset can, when it's active and focused and going well, can operate in its fullness Can you tell I get very passionate about it?
Love that. I feel the same way. I have two other things that your listeners might be interested in.
Great.
So I have like a behavior change program on my site. It's called Stick With It. And it's for people who say to me, I know what to do, but I don't know how to do it.
Uh-huh.
And so I go a lot into that vision of your ideal healthy self and about changing the environment and the small wins. And it's a video course. There is a fee for it, but it really helps people I know when somebody says to me, I know what to do, I just can't make myself do it. That is the person who needs this type of intervention, this type of information and help. And then beginning after the new year, so not yet, but after the new year, I will have a pre-diabetes course going on, and it will be video and live. So I'll have people for a couple of months, I'll be working with groups.
Awesome.
I'm looking forward to that.
That is amazing. Now, that is at JillWeisenberger.com as well.
Mhm.
And behavioral or behavior change?
Well, the program is called Stick With It.
Oh, Stick With It.
Right.
Yes, Stick With It. They can get now.
Yeah.
And there is a fee, and there will be a fee as well with the video and live, but we pay for what we respect. We pay for what we want. And my challenge right now to anybody that would be listening, go take a look. You'll know if you want it. You'll know if you think it's good. You'll know if it draws you to it.
The thing of it is, if it's the right fit, then it's life-changing. And if it's not the right fit, then it's not worth the money. But if it is the right fit, it changes lives.
And
That's
if
why
they
I do what I do, and I think that's why you do what you do.
Yo, absolutely.
I know
And
that.
if they will look at it and go check it out, then they will know. They can trust themselves to know, oh, that's amazing. And if it means something changes so that I can get this 2 months of work in, hey, you're worth the investment. And thank you so much for joining me today. And thank you, Jill, for being here and for your insights. And I love what you do. I love your why. I love your why.
We all
And
have a good why.
And I love that you help others. You know, some people tell us what we need to do, but the how-to is left out of a lot of things. A lot of things in my world. Have you thought about that around you, the how-to? And we're just assuming that we know, and you've not done that. You've looked at all those pieces. And so thank you for all you do. And thank you for being here today.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Let's do this again sometime, maybe.
You bet.
Bye.